Thanks for checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board. If you enjoy it, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. You can get access to the 2022 Rookie Big Board and all of my work at patreon.com/theFFeducator. This is the first episode of 2022. It's been about a week and a half here. I've taken some time to do a few things over the past 10 or so days where I have not dropped a new episode of the Rookie Big Board. One of the big things was putting in a lot of time into tape evaluation and updating the 2022 Rookie Big Board. So before I even jump into this episode, I do want to take time. I normally don't take extra time to plug this, but I want to point out this is the time of year to get in on the Rookie Big Board action. Head on over to patreon.com/theFFeducator. You get access to full rookie ranks for just $3 a month. These next three episodes here, we're going to be talking about reflecting on the 2021 Rookie Big Board. So if you want to get in on it, make sure you have the 2022 Rookie Big Board. Again, patreon.com/theFFeducator. That $3 level, it's great value, and you can get 15% off now if you sign up for the annual membership. And on top of all that, you get access to the Discord channel, which has been really fantastic. Folks are loving that. It's super active. But let's jump into now what we're going to be doing here over the next three episodes. Yes, this is going to be a three-part series. It's called 2021 Rookie Reflections. And so what I'm going to be doing here is taking time to take a step back and look at the 2021 Rookie Big Board, the hits, the misses, the changes in rookie value. And so it's going to be a three-part series here. Part one, this episode is going to be risers and fallers. So it's taking a step back here and really looking at the change in value. If you go to the 2021 Rookie Big Board right now, it is finalized, and it will show you the rank change and the RBBR, the Rookie Big Board rating change from post-draft all the way until now. So you can see the rookies that had the largest movements, and that's what we're going to be doing, breaking down in this episode. Episode 2 is going to be my lessons learned. It's going to be some reflection here, looking at these risers and fallers that we're talking about and trying to pull some lessons away, what we can learn to better improve the 2022 Rookie Big Board. And then number 3, episode 3 of this series, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're actually going to redraft the 2021 rookie draft class. And so what we're going to do in that episode is we're going to go through as if we were doing a rookie draft, understanding now what we know about these players. But let's go ahead and start here with episode 1. I have 5 risers and 5 fallers, and this is objective here. These are the players that have risen the most or fallen the most based on the Rookie Big Board rating, which was assigned to them post-draft. Now, post-draft, I had an understanding of the landing spot of the player so I could project opportunity as well as factoring in their tape grade. So let's go with number 1 here. In terms of risers, our largest riser was Jaylen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. He currently comes in at an 8.7 RBBR. That is a very high rating. It's second overall on the Rookie Big Board, and he does come in as wide receiver 2 here, so it's pretty obvious who wide receiver 1 is. Overall, number 1, it is Ja'Marr Chase, and I want to point out the Rookie Big Board is ranked for Superflex. So it is very impressive here that Jaylen Waddle is coming in at number 2 overall. And I want to point out that I had Jaylen Waddle as wide receiver 2 coming into this season. So although I was really high on him, he still exceeded expectations. Now, for folks who aren't as familiar, an 8 rating puts you into a franchise cornerstone position. It means you are a wide receiver 1 projecting forward for the position here, and I do think that's where Jaylen Waddle will stay. This season, he is going to finish as a borderline wide receiver 1. I'm recording at the end of Sunday Night Football in Week 17 here, so these numbers may flux a little bit here. But like I said, I had high expectations. I projected him as a wide receiver 2. I took flack for that, and he came in even higher than I expected. Now, you want to look at a big reason for it. It's volume with Jaylen Waddle. 134 targets this season. He had 99 receptions. Again, these numbers are going to change a little bit here. It's going to be even higher as we get past Week 17. 74% reception percentage. Now, it's really important to understand what the Dolphins are looking to do with Jaylen Waddle. It's an RPO-heavy offense, and Jaylen Waddle's ability to win off the line of scrimmage with that release, it's one of my favorite things from his tape evaluation from college. That release, winning with that first step, it allows him to dominate the underneath of the field. He works that mean slant route, nice drag route, good comeback route. He really works the bottom of the tree, and it's a real clear chemistry there with Tua. Now, what's exciting not only is that high volume for Jaylen Waddle this season, but what I'm going to actually project forward for Jaylen Waddle. Now, remember, the rookie big board takes into account not only a rookie's tape evaluation from college, but also their seasonal production, which we're still talking about 2021 in this context, but also a 3-year production projection from me, right? And so a big part of this is, okay, I understand what they're doing now, but what can I realistically project them forward to be doing? And I think it's only going to be consistent or better for Jaylen Waddle, right? Because what does Miami need to invest in? They need to invest in their offensive line to give Tua more time to find Waddle. They need to invest in a running game that's going to help balance out the offense. Maybe volume drops a little bit for Waddle in that situation, but it's going to open up more of the field. And if Waddle actually does have the opportunity to start expanding downfield, it's going to increase his touchdown potential, right? But here's also a big piece of this and where I could see Miami targeting this. Picking up a more boundary-based receiver here, potentially somebody that can pull top coverage. And if there's somebody pulling top coverage and stretching the field, that's going to really open things up for Jaylen Waddle. So I'm excited about Waddle now. I think he is a lock wide receiver 1. Dynasty formats moving forward, that's going to be a discussion this whole offseason, but right now I don't see how Jaylen Waddle isn't. So in terms of his rookie big board rating, like I said, he went from a 7.9 to an 8.7. That's a 0.9 change. That's a huge change, and it is the highest, but it's tied with somebody else, and that is Elijah Mitchell. And I just mentioned here, I was really high on Jaylen Waddle coming into the draft. I got to be honest, I was not on Elijah Mitchell. This was a miss for me, all right? I had Mitchell at a 5.6 RBBR, which is a taxi squad stash. That means he's somebody to put on your taxi squad because you never know what's going to happen. And I got to be honest, if I'm looking back on it, that still feels right? Mitchell was a day 3 draft pick. They drafted Trey Sermon above him, but he was somebody who came into preseason and he performed. He outperformed Trey Sermon. And so that rookie big board projection still kind of fit, but we need to adjust here because he's moved up now into that 6-7 range, which is a flex filler range, which means I could project him forward being in that RB3 territory. And that's where he landed this year, 760 yards and 5 touchdowns on just 165 carries. He caught 17 of his 18 targets in the passing game. Now here's the question with Elijah Mitchell. What is his long-term production going to be? Is this going to be back to an open battle with Trey Sermon going into next season? I'm not sure, so there's a little bit of hesitancy there when it looks long-term projection, but I don't see Elijah Mitchell just being totally faded out of this 49ers offense, and so for that reason, he does kind of go in here as RB4 in a weaker running back class moving forward, and that's going to be Elijah Mitchell, running back for the 49ers, potentially the starting running back for the 49ers moving forward. All right, moving up here, we have Pat Friermuth. Friermuth comes in at a 6'6", or I should say he started at a 6'6 RBBR, which is in bench depth territory here. Or I should say 6'6 is just in that flex filler territory. So tight end 3, tight end 2. And he's bumped up to a 7.2 here, which puts him into weekly starter territory, which is a borderline tight end 1. And that is where Friermuth is going to finish this season, and I think he's only going to increase his value moving forward. You look at that stat line this year, 49 receptions on 64 targets. He got 76% of his passes, 7 touchdowns. Those 7 touchdowns are 5th among all tight ends in touchdowns specifically. Now, if you look at long-term, a huge question mark here. What is Pittsburgh going to do with the quarterback position? I think everybody's worst case scenario here is that they just say, I'm fine here with Mason Rudolph, and they stick with him. I think that is a value down across the board for Pittsburgh. But here's their opportunity, a large amount of cap space coming off of the books there with Ben Roethlisberger. And so do they have the opportunity to go after one of these veteran quarterbacks that could be on the move? Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, for example, either one of those two guys. I know it's probably not as exciting, but I also could definitely see them taking a shot at Marcus Mariota, who I do think could have a career revival similar to Ryan Tannehill moving from Miami to Tennessee. Either way here, I think Pat Friermuth, as long as it's not Mason Rudolph, is going to maintain his value as a really critical part of this offense. He's shown that pass-catching prowess, and he's shown the ability to be a red zone threat. And for us, in a desolate tight end landscape, Pat Friermuth has to move forward with a lot of value. Right now, he's 13th overall in the rookie class. That's where he finishes for me. He's tight end 2. He was tight end 2 early on, but he moves up in that overall rank. All right, moving on here to Mac Jones. Mac Jones started here at a 7-1 RBBR for me, and he moves up zero point 0.6 points up to a 7-7 RBBR. Now that 7-1 puts you in weekly starter territory, and that 7-7 is also in weekly starter territory. And so for the quarterback position, weekly starter really puts you in that QB2 range. That's like your solid, your good quarterback. Remember, it's super flex, so it's your good quarterbacks, reliable, not going to necessarily win you your league, but not going to cost you week in and week out. And I think I nailed it with Mac Jones. And there's a lot of folks here that were really losing their mind, victory lapping their Mac Jones takes. And Mac Jones had a good season, right? I'm not trying to take anything away from Mac Jones, but you look at it here. 491 passing attempts, that's low volume for a quarterback, but he completed 332 of those at 67%. That's solid. 3,540 passing yards. That's good. That's good. It's solid for the quarterback position. 21 touchdowns. That's low. 12 interceptions. That's not too bad. But if you look at it ratio-wise with the touchdowns, that's not ideal. Finished quarterback 14 in attempts. Quarterback 12 in yards. Tied for quarterback 11 in touchdowns. Here's my question with Mac Jones, and this is going to be everybody's question, so I'm not coming up with anything brand new or unique here. Is this the ceiling? How much further can Mac Jones go? And specifically, I'm not knocking Mac Jones' talent because I think we've seen a player who can come and adjust to the NFL, adjust to a complicated scheme quickly. How much more are the Patriots going to want him to do? They are an offense that's going to look to run the ball first. They don't necessarily invest highly in the wide receiver position. They have invested money in the tight end position. That's worked out for Hunter Henry. How much more are the Patriots going to ask Mac Jones to do? So I think if you're thinking long term, if you have Mac Jones on your roster, I think you're happy about it. You made a good draft pick. Well done. Hold on to him because you could see a Kirk Cousins-like rise, right, in his value. But remember, the volume is low, and that's not always fantastic here. So I wouldn't go and pay up for Mac Jones. If you have him, keep him, but I'm not moving a lot of value to go ahead and get Mac Jones, right? We have one more in the riser category, and that's quarterback Davis Mills. Now, this is an interesting one here. Davis Mills was a really raw developmental prospect coming out of Stanford, high pedigree, 5-star recruit, doesn't end up playing that much for a variety of reasons there at Stanford, gets drafted by the Houston Texans. It's their first pick, but it's pick 80-something, right? It's in the 3rd round, if I'm remembering correctly, so it'd be higher than 80. Anyways, Davis Mills ends up the Houston Texans starter after Tyrod Taylor goes down with injury, and it has been a roller coaster here. I know folks are hot on Davis Mills right now, and his RBBR did go up, so it went from a 5.9 to 6.6. Remember that 5.9, that is going to be taxi squad stash territory. In that 6.6, it's putting him just in that flex filler range. My flex filler, that's QB3 territory. So if Davis Mills keeps his job moving forward, he should be a quarterback 3, which in Superflex is fine. Keep him on your roster, but he's 21 overall still in the class. He's QB6 still in the class, right? I'm not putting Davis Mills ahead of Zach Wilson, even though he struggled, right? There's a clear gap in value and ceiling, right? So let's look at Davis Mills. He's had some great games this season, right? Week 5 against the Patriots, he had 29 completions there. 22 for 29. He had 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Against the Patriots, huge game. Great job there. Against both the Rams and the Chargers combined, right? So I'm combining these two LA teams because they both have good defensive units. Against both of these teams combined, he puts up 50 for 65, 565 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. So you look at this and say, all right, this is a guy the Houston Texans can legitimately give another shot to moving into next season, which I will be honest, I did not think that he was going to play his way to that point, right? I thought best case scenario, Davis Mills was going to be somebody who held the job for a year and got replaced with a high draft pick in this year's upcoming draft. This year's upcoming draft, from an NFL front office perspective, it's looking like the quarterback class is weaker. So if you're the Houston Texans in a long-term rebuild, I think it's logical to move forward thinking that Davis Mills could be your QB of the next year here while you build out more infrastructure and hopefully take advantage of a richer draft class at the quarterback position moving forward. I think the Texans understand that whether it's Davis Mills or whether they draft a quarterback in the top 10 this year, they're going to be drafting in the top 5, the top 10 over the next few years. This is a long-term rebuild, and I don't think the Texans are delusional about that, right? And so there is potential from a fantasy perspective that Davis Mills is out there again next year. But I want to point out, he's had some awful games too. I was up in Buffalo when Davis Mills was playing the Bills, and it was ugly. He went 11 for 21. He had 87 yards. He had 0 touchdowns, and he had 4 interceptions. And that's what I've seen with my eyes. And I understand he's had much better games. It was his worst game of the season, but that's what I've seen. And so it's hard for me to shake that out. Right, Arizona, week 7, 23 for 32, 135 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So I'm giving you games early in the season, right? He's played better later on in the season. But again, the question is Houston going to have him as the quarterback one? We can be logical and work through the logic that I just gave you, but we can't assume. Either way, at this point in time, he has moved his value up from somebody who is an afterthought to somebody who is in the top 25 of my rookie rankings, coming in there at 21 overall. All right, we have to jump into the fallers here. Before we jump into the fallers, I do want to take a moment here and point out a couple notables in terms of risers. Jamar Chase, I had him at an 8.2. He did rise to 8.7. Jamar Chase is number 1 overall on the rookie big board right now. Kyle Pitts, I had him at a 7.7. Which is a weekly starter. I moved him up to an 8.2, which is a league winner, which is a high-end player, tight end 1 lock moving forward. I kind of had him on that fringe range, but pushing him up there. Javonte Williams, I was lower on him than most. I had him as running back 3. He moved up from 7.3 to 7.8. That puts him as running back 2 right now. We'll get into Javonte Williams more in episode number 3 of this series, where I redraft the class, and you can kind of get an idea of all of these guys next to each other. Ramondre Stevenson rose from a 5'9 to a 6'3, and so essentially a taxi squad player to a bench depth player. And I want to take a moment here to point out that Ramondre Stevenson is still a bench depth player for me, because this is Damien Harris's offense. And I don't think Ramondre Stevenson is ever going to get enough of this offense on his own if Damien Harris is healthy. However, here's the key. However, running backs get injured all the time. So having a talented guy like Ramondre Stevenson on your bench as a bench depth type role in case Harris gets injured, that is good. So Stevenson has value, and that value is certainly rising. And then one more to note here of more significant movers. Michael Carter moved from a 6'5 to a 6'8. I think Michael Carter has really solidified himself in that running back 2-3 fringe conversation for fantasy football moving forward. But let's go ahead and jump into the 5 fallers here. And we have to start, unfortunately, with my guy, Terrace Marshall. And he is my guy. I'm not going to back off of my takes on him. I was high on Terrace Marshall. Had him as wide receiver 4. All right, it has not worked out. I mean, he has been a non-factor in Carolina. So he had a 7.7 RBBR, which is a weekly starter, and he's dropping all the way down to 6.3, which is a bench depth, right? So from a borderline wide receiver 2-3 to just somebody that you want on your bench just in case they hit, right? And so it's definitely a miss for me. I'm not going to run away from that. I'm not going to back off of that. But somebody who, if I have him on my rosters, I know in the Discord and Patreon Discord channel, we've been talking about this a lot. What do we do with Terrace Marshall? We hold on to Terrace Marshall. We're holding on to him. Don't sell him cheap. Just put him on your bench and stash him away, right? He's been active most weeks. He was a healthy scratch 1 week, which is somewhat reassuring. He's had 28 targets all season. He's caught 15 of those for 122 yards. It's not ideal. It's not what we want to see. He's down to 24 in my rankings overall from this rookie class. That's where he'll finish, wide receiver 10, much lower than where I expected him. I still think the talent's there. I'm still going to hold on to Terrace Marshall, but if you look at the numbers, I can't sit here and prop him up over some of the other wide receivers in this class. Another guy whose talent I really like, but just has not gotten on the field as a rookie, and that is Tylan Wallace for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I didn't exactly expect Wallace to get a ton of run in his rookie year, but he didn't get any run. All right, he has 2 receptions on 5 targets all season. If you want some silver lining, 4 of the targets came in week 15 and 16. And there's a lot going on in there in that Ravens offense. Devin Duvernay has played better. Rashad Bateman has come on. Hollywood Brown has improved. It's certainly the quarterback position has been up in the air between Jackson and Huntley, but I think at the bottom line right now that putting Tylan Wallace as anything more than a bench depth piece would be misleading. And I initially had him at 7.2, which was much higher. I thought his talent could push him into a weekly starter type range, but he's dropped a full 1.1 points on the RBBR. And I think that's just me taking a step back and being honest about where he fits in the NFL. And this is going to be an interesting one here. It's Trevor Lawrence, 8.4 RBBR. He's going to be finishing the 2021 season 4th on the rookie big board. And we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence a good bit in episode 2, which is the lessons learned. We're going to talk about how to really evaluate the quarterback position. As we know, it's one of the most difficult positions. I want to point out, Trevor Lawrence is still QB1 on the rookie big board here. He got passed by 3 players, Jamar Chase, Jaylen Waddle, and Najee Harris. And I got to say, before the Week 17 games, Trevor Lawrence was actually higher up here, but that Week 17 performance dropped him into a lower level of fantasy football production, and the way that plugs into my formula, he slid down an extra 3 spots, so he will finish as QB1 still, but 4th overall. At an 8-4, that's still a league winner, right? And so I do still believe in Trevor Lawrence. I want to emphasize that. He had everything working against him, and he did still finish as a borderline QB2 despite all of the challenges in Jacksonville. We've seen rookie quarterbacks struggle and come back and develop over time, right? Hopefully Jacksonville, whatever the new coaching staff is, they'll have the tape, they'll have an understanding of what weapons need to be in place around Trevor Lawrence, right? So I'm not giving up on him. I'm not selling him low. If you could buy him low, buy him low. But he has to drop in rookie big board rating. So he's going to drop. He came in at a 9.3, which was a generational prospect. He's the only one that had graded out on this rating as a generational prospect, which is just somebody who is just far and above better than even a normal positional QB1, right? And he's not there yet, but he could still get there. This season, he was 336 for 570, so 58% completion, 3,400 passing yards, 10 touchdowns to 17 interceptions here. It was a tough go of it for Trevor Lawrence. Hey, how about another big miss by Matt? That's going to be Javian Hawkins out of Louisville. Javian Hawkins is going to have a whole lesson devoted to him on the Lessons Learned episode. But here's the bottom line. I had Hawkins as somebody whose tape I loved. Even post-draft, I had him at a 6'5", which was a bench depth, and now he's down to 5'6", which is in that taxi squad stash range here. So just somebody who could be on your taxi squad just in case they hit. But listen, Hawkins hasn't seen the field. It was definitely a miss by me. A UDFA, preferred UDFA by Atlanta, cut. Signed by Tennessee, cut. Signed by the Rams. He's currently on the Rams practice squad. So, you never say never. You could see him potentially developing down the line. We've seen these running backs come from, complete irrelevance to being relevant again 2-3 years down the line. So like I said, somebody, if you got taxi squad spots, you put him on there. And once he ages out of the taxi squad, you can feel, no guilt releasing him to the waiver wire pool. All right, one more faller here. He was alluded to earlier in this episode, and that's going to be running back Trey Sermon from the 49ers. Trey Sermon had him at a 6'6", which is, again, in that bench depth territory coming in, so I wasn't super high on him. Sermon was an interesting one. I really liked Trey Sermon's 2019 college tape. I didn't like his 2020 college tape, except for the last couple games, so I was hesitant on him even when he got that draft capital. So bench depth was probably lower than most folks had him, in that more running back 4 or 5 range. But I didn't expect him to get beat out by Elijah Mitchell. Like I said, I'm not trying to claim that. But this season, just 41 attempts for 167 yards, 1 touchdown. He hasn't been healthy the whole season. Really 2 games where he had significant volume. Week 4 against Seattle, he went 19 for 89, no touchdown. Week 11 against Jacksonville, he went 10 for 32, didn't find the end zone. It's going to be a question mark. The talent is there, the pedigree is there. So Trey Sermon is going to get the opportunity to at least compete to split volume in that San Francisco backfield here moving forward. So again, somebody that I would just hold on my roster. Don't try to move him cheap. If you could buy him cheap, if you really want to, but I wouldn't really be looking to trade him either. I think he's just like a solid hold type guy. A couple other notables, 4 players that dropped off. Tamorrion Terry dropped from a 6'3" to a 5'4". 5'4" is waiver wire warrior. You don't want him on your team. Terry is out of the league for major off-the-field concerns. Had good tape at Florida State, but obviously I don't think we're going to see him in the NFL. So you can wipe him off, but I thought it was relevant to bring him up. Cade Johnson out of South Dakota State. I really liked Cade Johnson. Didn't get the draft capital. I had him at a 6.0 even post-draft, which is bench depth. right before that taxi squad stash. He's down to a 5-1 waiver wire warrior. You can get rid of him, but keep an eye on him. You never know where he might pop up in the future. Justin Fields also fell from the quarterback position. I had him at an 8-8. We're going to move him to an 8-2 right now. Still league winner, still excited about Justin Fields. Still slightly ahead of Trey Lance. I know that's a question a lot of folks have as well. Trey Lance versus Justin Fields. And we're going to do that again. Episode 3 is redrafting the rookie class. So we're going to get to compare some of these guys. But Fields as well dropped here. We're going to talk about evaluating quarterbacks, episode 2, lessons learned. Dwayne Eskridge, he's kind of struggled with injury, so I had to drop him because of production and future projection in that offense. He's had some flashes here, flashed a little bit in week 17, not too much. 6.6 bench depth to 6, still bench depth, but right on that border of taxi squad stash. Dyami Brown, I was lower on Dyami Brown than most folks. Hit him at a 6'2 bench depth, so we're talking wide receiver 4, 5, out of weekly. I think a lot of people thought he was going to come in and be a weekly starter. Now, in Brown's defense, the Washington offense is a complete mess. However, he hasn't really gotten out there. He hasn't been impactful, and so I moved him down to 5'9 taxi squad stash here. So those are the highest risers and fallers from the 2021 season according to the rookie big board. Again, if you want to go and either look at the 2021 rookie big board or check out the 2022 rookie big board and you don't already have access, it's patreon.com/theFFeducator. I appreciate you checking out episode 1 of Rookie Reflections, where we took a look at just the big board itself, who's moving up and who's moving down. Episode 2 is going to be lessons learned. Episode 3 is going to be redrafting the 2021 rookie class. As always, I appreciate you checking out this episode.